Hi, this is Mark Laughlin with the Ambidextral Gunfighter to talk a little bit about, here's my opinion as the Ambidextral Gunfighter on the U.S. Army's Next Generation Squad Weapon Program. Now, the program is sent out for proposals, and several companies have responded, and most of them have been pretty conventional as far as the layout of the weapon systems they're offering, and nothing really ambidextrous gunfighter related that I can relate, really cheer about. There is one system from General Dynamics. It's the RM277, which is a bullpup. Now, I do like the bullpups. I like the ability to have more kinetic energy and a shorter overall length, and then also the maneuverability, and of course the ability to dive into cover with the weapon and not have your muzzle dig in. Now, that is not really an ambidextrous thing, just kind of a side benefit, and that's just my opinion. There's a lot of things about as far as the military, the soldiers, what they have to deal with that I'm not familiar with. The only thing I really want to bring to the argument is being ambidextrous and having an ambidextrous weapon system. Now, I go over in my video series, the Ambidextral Gunfighter, the 4-part video series, the why become ambidextrous, how to become ambidextrous, and what the ambidextrous gunfighter requires in his equipment. And then the final video is my review of the Desert Tech MDR, which I regard very highly as the best ambidextral gunfighter rifle currently available. Now, what General Dynamics has delivered is the RM277, which is a bullpup. Now, one of the requirements from the U.S. Army's Next Generation Squad Weapon Program is that the weapon be ambidextrous. Now, they don't really define what they mean by the weapon must be ambidextrous, and I think that is a huge problem. Too often it is viewed ambidextrous as considered, okay, it can be configured either right-handed or left-handed. And now that, in my opinion, is not ambidextrous. That is either configurable as right-handed or left-handed. Ambidextrous means that you must be able to make optimal use of cover, and that is by switching shoulders as needed. And with the proper training, soldiers can be taught to do that. They can be taught to be completely oblivious to whether they're shooting left or right, to have no preference for either side. Now, and that's what we learned in paintball, and that's where my whole passion about this whole being ambidextrous comes from. Now, let's look at the RM277 from General Dynamics. Now, it looks, an initial appearance has some, it looks a little bit similar to the Desert Tech MDR. And so I'm kind of inclined to initially at least like it, the bullpup design. It has, I think, a little bit longer barrel. And, but ambidextrous, it's a total fail. Now, one thing just to start off is the charging handle. It is not perfectly mirrored. It can be set up to be either on the left, for right-hand shooters or left-hand shooters. It is not set up like the Desert Tech where you have a perfectly mirrored control with the charging handle on both sides. Now, the 100% perfect mirroring is important because of the concept of bilateral transfer. Bilateral transfer. That's where what you learn something, your brain learns something with your right hand, and then it's able to transfer that skill set over to the other hand. And to do that requires that things operate the same, left and right-handed. Now, the other thing is the magazine release. Now, I can't quite tell from what's available from the videos that I've seen and the information I found online exactly how the magazine is released. Now, it kind of looks like to me there's a button kind of in front of the mag well, similar to what the Kel-Tec RDB has for releasing the magazine. So if so, that is ambidextrous, but is not exactly what I would consider ergonomically efficient, because what I like about the Desert Tech is that ability to, with one hand, push your magazine release up by the trigger guard on either side, just like, but positioned like an AR, and then have the ability, while you're doing that, reaching for another magazine. So you're ejecting one magazine and then feeding with another simultaneously. So to me, that's the optimal design for magazine changes. And then also the Desert Tech had the huge benefit of when you feed that magazine in, you've got perfect placement with the magazine going into the rifle, with your thumb there to push the bolt release and chamber the round. And I think that's hugely beneficial. In fact, in my testing, comparing my reload times with my AR versus the MDR, I was anywhere from 1/4 of a second to 1/2 a second faster with the MDR, largely because of that. Now, another thing on the RM277 is that the safety selector switch is actually, I guess, just a safety switch, and then there's a slider for whether it's, I guess, a 3-round burst or full auto. And I'm not sure about the ergos on that. You know, it to me doesn't look exactly very ergonomic or ergonomically efficient, and so I'm a little bit suspicious of it, but I would like to see that in action. Now, the video you get from General Dynamics, the advertising video, is very, very flashy, has a lot of appeal to the tactical crowd, I guess. But it's interesting. There's a lot of flash and a lot of cool looking stuff, but you don't ever see them doing a mag change. You don't ever see them switching shoulders. In fact, I didn't see a single person shooting the weapon left-handed or operating the weapon left-handed. So for a weapon that's designed to meet the ambidextrous requirement, to me that's kind of a stunning omission, is not to have at least one person shooting it left-handed, even if it does mean that they have to, make the gun specifically for a left-handed shooter. You think they would at least include that in their marketing video. I'm assuming that the ejection port can be moved to the other side of the weapon so the left-hand shooter is not hit in the face. Now, it looks like, the best I can tell, is the brass, when it ejects out the RM277, it maybe comes forward a little bit, but not nearly like what the MDR does. And in fact, it looks to me like it's, if you get up on that weapon very close up behind the pick rail, any whatsoever hardly, I'm pretty sure you're gonna get smacked in the face with the brass if you switch shoulders with a right-handed configure rifle and shoot left-handed. So to me, that's a huge failure with the General Dynamics offering. It is not the Ambidextral Gunfighter by any means. It is not an Ambidextral Gunfighter rifle. It does not meet my standards. Now, of course, it appears that my video series has completely failed to have any influence whatsoever on the next generation squad weapon program. I have been, posting stuff, emailing stuff on the website that the U.S. Army has made available to vendors, and giving my opinion, but apparently with little or no effect. Maybe the requirement for being ambidextrous, maybe that came from my input. I don't know. That may have been in advance, but it definitely did not. None of the rifles that are the 4 contenders right now are ambidextrous by my standard, and sadly that just makes me feel like I just completely failed with my Ambidextral Gunfighter video series, which was really the whole purpose of it, was to get the next generation squad weapon for the U.S. Army to be ambidextrous in the true ambidextral gunfighter fashion, and then with plans, for the U.S. Army to include training to make use of being ambidextrous, eliminating the dominant eye, and everything I go over in my 4-part video series. Now, the only 2 bullpups that are currently really 100% or almost 100% perfectly mirrored as far as ambidextrous shooting are the Keltec RDB and the Desert Tech MDR. Now, the Keltec, I haven't experimented with one of those. I do plan to get one and do some testing with it, but just from handling one in a gun shop, I can see that it is nowhere near as ergonomically efficient as the MDR. And in fact, I'm concerned about when I'm doing the transition from left to right, back and forth, that the RDB's magazine release, which is right on front of the mag well, is going to interfere with that transition, and it looks to me very likely will cause an accidentally dropping the magazine while making those transitions. But at least the Keltec solution and the Desert Tech solution are in that ambidextrous friendly bullpup range. The RDB having the downward ejection, so the brass is cleared from your shooter's face, and the MDR being where it's the kind of forward off to the side ejection, so you can shoot that left or right. The brass is ejected more towards the front of the weapon. Now, one thing they talk about as far as the RM277, of course, is the ammo for it, and they're making a big fanfare about it being this polymer case, which is fine. I mean, reducing weight, that's great. There may be some other benefits of which I am not particularly aware. The 6.8, you know, I suppose that's a better round, especially in the age of body armor. Although, to me, I think the 5.56 with could be made to work as well. Now and the thing is, you make a 6.8, and then of course the body armor is just they're just adapt and make the body armor, you know, be able to resist 6.8. So ultimately, whether you're having a 5.56 or 6.8, you're going to have to learn to shoot in the areas, into your opponents, in areas where there is not body armor. You have to look for the chinks in the body armor, I guess you'd say. As far as the new 6.8 polymer case, now what I think really needs to be done, and there needs to be like a Manhattan project on this, is to create the next generation true ammo for a combat rifle. And to me, that would be caseless. We need caseless ammo. And then what that may entail is what I call, you know, liquid powder, liquid gunpowder, so that you could have a compartment on your weapon that you fill up with liquid gunpowder, and then the rifle automatically meters that out as it needs it. And then you eliminate, by doing that, by going caseless, you eliminate the whole issue with, you know, ejecting brass and having the brass in the way, especially on these bullpup rifles. And so I think that's where the development really needs to be. Imagine your ability to, on the fly, alter your powder load for subsonic, suppressed, you know, a little more punch to get through some heavy cover, or to just improve the cycling if it's really cold, or water, maybe underwater. You could change your powder load on the fly if you had a, you know, liquid propellant that's dispensed as needed in a caseless system. But, you know, I'm not an engineer, designer of weapons, so I'm just thinking of things that I think need to be done to make our weapons truly ambidextrous and the best gunfighting rifles that can be made. And, you know, we've got amazing things that our aircraft are doing, our helicopters, our tanks, you know, the amazing developments that have been made there, and yet we're still cycling this and ejecting brass out in our firearms. It's just, to me, is insane. I have to wonder, where is our modern day, you know, John Moses Browning or John C. Garand, or you know, Eugene Stoner? There's not any really, you know, major developments being made. We do have, of course, George Kellgren of Caltech, who's come up with some really cool firearms design. And then, of course, Nicholas Young at Desert Tech. I believe he's the one that, you know, I don't know if he's the engineer, but at least he's the one that come up with the idea, I guess, of the MDR being fully ambidextrous. So that's, you know, we're moving in that direction, but we just need, you know, a really more aggressive, I think, development effort. Not just this little minuscule gains with an untested design versus our current. Versus our current M4. I mean, the M4 is, you know, forest design based on the Eugene Stoner design, even though it's 50 or 60 years old, is still, you know, it's at its highest refinement. It's, you know, excellent for what it is. It's just not ambidextrous, and it's not a bullpup. And I think those are what the next generation weapon should be striving for, that and caseless ammo. So, in my opinion, there's no reason whatsoever that the U.S. Army should be like planning to migrate to any of these 4 candidates for the next generation squad weapon. It's just not there. That, in my opinion. And like I said, you know, my video series apparently completely failed to have any influence on this. But in my opinion, this next generation squad weapon program should they need to stall it. Put a, you know, stop right now. Wait, you know, rethink this whole thing. insist on 100% perfect mirroring ambidextrous, and then maybe even, you know, highly push for caseless ammo. Now, one thing I think of is that maybe General Dynamics or SIG or FN should look at buying Desert Tech or Kel-Tec or both, and add their development teams to their current programs, and to achieve this, you know, this type of engineering feat that needs to be done, or to, you know, progress a little bit further, a little bit faster. Now, again, I hope, if you're watching this, I hope you at least will switch over and catch my 4-part video series, you know, why become ambidextrous, how to become ambidextrous, what the ambidextrous gunfighter requires in the rifle, and then of course my review of the MDR Desert Tech. There is a shorter video. I call it my the Ambidextral Gunfighter Executive Summary. If you want to really shorten that up and save time, you can catch that one, and I'll include links down below in the description. And so, you know, it appears that I'm not going to have any effect whatsoever, but maybe 20 years from now, 30 years from now, maybe then, you know, after I'm long dead and gone, maybe there'll be some progress here. It's Mark Laughlin with the Ambidextral Gunfighter. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe.